Oh.
Have we started? Okay. No, that's not the way to go. I should start with hooray, not but yeah, welcome. Welcome to Bertie, who holds YoungMenSpeak, Kate, who holds the WomenSpeak with Christelle, Des, who holds the MatureMenSpeaks with John, and me, who's been holding things for 20 years now with the groups. And I love the way that things are opening up. And what we do before we start the groups is check out the ground rules. And the ground rules are somewhere on mensgroups.co.uk. Do we know where on mensgroups.co.uk for the ground rules?
Yeah, in the check-in detail.
There you go. Detail, check it out. And then once we've been through the ground rules, there are 12. Everyone either needs to agree them or change something. So we are checking in with these guidelines that we all agree with, and then we do 2-minute silence. So let's do 30 seconds silence, because 2 minutes is a long time in radio land. What a lovely cat.
This is Fifi.
Hello,
This
Fifi.
is the women's corner. This is the girls' corner. Yeah.
So I got carried away. I think that was more than 30 seconds, because I have a story that includes my mouse, because it's the year of the rat. And I'll tell you that it's remote control, but it ran out of batteries just when we needed it the most last night. But I'll tell you about that in a minute. But maybe Fifi would like to play, because it didn't work on the Hawks.
I'm sure she would.
So let's start with your name, how you feel right now, and something that has either brought you joy or an insight or a if that makes sense. Who fancies starting and then pass it on?
I can start then. I'm Bertie. I feel really quite knackered. I was like, I haven't been out today, so I wanted to go for a walk, but before I knew it, the podcast was upon me, and I could have done with a nap as well. So yeah, I might be taking a bit. I might be a bit slow, or take a bit of time to wake up. The joy, what's brought me joy or an insight, I named something like kind of in the way between me and a really close friend yesterday, and it was it was really amazing. It was like it's kind of like the conversations I've had when I was like drunk, and or that you're meant to have when you're drunk with your friend.
I love you.
When you're a teenager. But we were stone cold sober, and it was the middle of the day. So wow. It was it was like really, really intimate conversation, and we both said we were scared of each other. And but that's really like filled me up. I've talked about this kind of bit of a like kind of background core dissatisfaction or lack or something that I've had, I think, for a long time, on and off. And I think I realized it goes away when I, you know, really feel met by someone. And I think I'm, you know, I think it's kind of gone away. I think I feel pretty met at the moment.
Wow. Hats off to you, Bertie. Courageous, big-hearted bloke without alcohol in the system. Pass it on.
Go on, Kate.
Okay. Well, I'm Kate, and very excited to be joining you for this, my first time in this group. I'm feeling also a little bit frustrated, trying to sort out a problem with my car, negotiating between the garage and the warranty people. So that's been a little bit of a frustration this morning. And I think the other thing that's kind of come up in the last couple of days, Kenny's aware of this, that my other cat, Fifi's brother Freddie, died on Tuesday, and you know, it was a very upsetting experience going to pick him up off the side of the road and bury him. And I suppose it, you know, the sort of floodgates of grief really opened, and I could feel how I kind of cracked, if you like, and the tears just began to flow, and I could feel the sort of echoes of other losses and other bereavements, if you like, and could really feel a kind of a softening and a vulnerability and a kind of raw openness, if you like, which, you know, I'd rather be feeling joyful than that, but I welcomed it, and was able to watch as it kind of moved through into more of a sense of acceptance and reverence and enjoyment of having had this fairy creature in my life for all the years that I did. So much more in touch with the fondness and the love, and as well as the sadness.
Thank you.
Yes.
And beautiful cat. I saw it I saw a picture.
Yeah, he was a lovely
beautiful cat.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to pass it on.
Well, do you want to go now, Kenny? As your
okay. So I was working last night on Zoom with a client, and we were doing voice dialogue. We were in the depths of something, and something was just shifting. Something big was just shifting, and as it shifted, I heard something kind of drag on the roof. I'm on the 3rd floor. And then a thump on the balcony next to me. And I thought, that's weird. And I saw something quite big on the corner of my eye, and I thought, that's a spontaneously dying seagull. How weird, what's going on? So I left it, I thought nothing of it. Finished the session. I mean, I looked away and then I came back, finished the session. And at the end of the session, quite heavy-hearted, I kind of went to check out the seagull. And there was this eagle-looking bird, this massive thing looking back at me, and it was just sitting there and staring, and it was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. What is it? How long is it going to be here? So I called my wife to check it out, and it was just looking, and it was all wet and a little bit confused. Dirty great thing. What do we do? What do we do? And then we noticed it had something around one of its ankles. So cut a long story short, it's like, okay, we need to feed it, but we haven't got any raw meat. We need to, then we put it on Facebook. What do we do? Who do we contact? And there were a few links. And They said, give it some water, don't give it pork sausages, don't put anything with salt on it, and, you know, all of these things. And then a woman called me and she said, you know, this is what to do. You can probably go near it and it might come on your arm, but be careful because the talons will probably go through your coat. And I'm just like, I like my arms. And then so you could put it on your hand, but you'd need, you know, 2 or 3 gloves. And I'm thinking, no, I probably, even if it comes on me, peck my eyes out. And in the end, it was a big cardboard. Well, and then she said, put a towel over it so its head's covered. And I thought, even if I do and I bring it in, it's going to be freaked out and it's going to be scared and it might have a heart attack or something. It's like, what do we do? So we got a cardboard box and we thought we'd put that on it until someone comes. So and it was just standing there. It seemed to be quite cool with me. So I went out, and when it saw the size of the box, it flew up to the edge. And I thought, no, don't go. Something bad might happen. So we put the box away. Oh, I put it down on the side, and my wife was dangling. It's, you know, we were in panic to entice it, and, you know, it's remote control, but the batteries ran out. So when we put it down, we thought, let's make it move. Wasn't working. So we had to forget the mouse. So I went near it and we just kind of hung out. It was quite high. It was on the ledge, and I was quite near. And it was quite safe, but I didn't want it to fly. I wanted it to be captured and safe. So in the end, a bloke came over, had some food. You know, there's a thing on its ankle. So it got that thing, and it had a number on it so they can find its home. And he brought it in the house, and it was just absolute. This is why I'm wearing the birds on my shirt, in honor. It was majestic to have a presence like that in our house, and for it to just suddenly land like that in the middle of, absolutely amazing. So that was bliss. That was an amazing, amazing experience. And I'm aware that I avoided the first bit, which is how I feel right now, because I was feeling quite teary just before we started, because I had a really lovely meeting with someone who works with people with neurological problems, who was talking about holding groups, especially for the men who aren't engaging very well. And it was a really, really touching, and this is why I pushed the lump down with water. Very, very touching meeting. And I love that what we're doing, people are realizing, especially now, the importance of checking in and saying how we are and opening the space to be heard. So after you've gone, Des, I think a quick round on the young men's groups, the mature men's groups, the women's groups, and I don't know, and wherever it goes.
I need to
Go
know,
on, Bertie.
what type
Sorry?
of bird was it?
Oh, it was a hawk.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a goshawk. And it was magnificent. You know, the wingspan, the presence. And I fell in love with it. It fell in love with Angela. Because whenever she walked away, it was like this. It didn't care about me that much. You know, I was trying to make friends, but, you know, it's a love triangle. Over to you, Des.
My name is Des, and yeah, I feel pretty good at the moment. And I love hearing these stories about the animal world during our lockdowns, because, you know, all these messages to stay apart, 2 meters, etc. You know, when you're walking, you know, and a dog just hurtles itself at you, covers you with mud, wants to lick all your bits. You know, I just find that blissful in a time of, you know, connecting poverty, I suppose, for want of a better expression. So, yeah, my name is Des. Feel good. I think I feel particularly good, despite having chronic lack of sleep. I'm sleeping badly, especially during these lockdowns. But before I came on the group, and it almost made me late, I made a pot of tea for my partner and myself, and we just sat there talking about the strangeness of things, and how we feel uncomfortable, I suppose, having our wings clipped. You know, normally I'd be quite I tend to be restless, and I always, you know, want to be on a train or a plane. And this winter's taken a bit more thinking about, you know, in order to respect rules, to protect everybody, and including ourselves. And of course, up here in the northwest, there's plenty of rain. And apart from a stunningly beautiful day on Tuesday, I think, yesterday, for example, when I get a lot of pleasure of going out walking, I mean, I just had to put every rainproofer I could find to keep dry. And I was walking after dark, and in order to try and make myself feel really good about a walk when the weather's shit or it's nighttime, is to look for something to take a picture of. And I dropped down onto the canal path, and I was just under the bridge by Timperley Station. And in this extraordinary twilight and mist and ghostly figures walking along the canal path, I just took this picture. And I mean, it's incredibly poor quality and it's all grainy, but actually chuck it on Instagram and add a bit of salt and pepper using all these editing things, and it looks like amazing. I'm getting all these rave reviews because of a really shitty evening. And I get a lot of pleasure out of that. So yeah, when I'm feeling down and the weather's shit and it's lockdown, I try and make a point, look for something exceptional, and it's always there.
Yeah. Thank you, Des. So I think, as so many people know by now, since lockdown, which is what, March, we've been holding weekday lunchtime groups by donation, 12:30 to 1:30. And then since November, with Movember, we've upped that to include weekends. And then Christmas and New Year, we had 3 over 5 days. And they've been great. They've been a really important place for us to check in, name what's going on, and not carry it around, and to be in good company, learn from each other, share the journey, share the darkness, have a laugh, get real. I don't remember what the strap line is. What is it? Be heard, hang out, be heard, and get real. I remembered. Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Fair enough. So it's been great. And then how long ago did you start with the young men's groups? And what's different, would you say, Bertie, with the young men's groups?
It was in November, and the difference, there is a difference. I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain what it is, because it's kind of, yeah, it's like so subtle, and I'm not sure what it is. I'm aware, like, it feels like the younger people are, the faster they talk. So it's just like moving on quickly, next round, and it's like, you know, switching from subject to subject very quickly. And in terms of like what they talk about, yeah, it can be a bit different. I really liked it because when, you know, I could just relate so much, like, to, it was different to the regular check-ins where I can relate most of the time. with the young men's groups, I could so relate to what people were saying. Pretty much everyone who came along, and yeah, I guess it is stuff like you know, dating and breakups and friendships and the stuff around like assertiveness as well, and you know, what else? But there have been some like just amazing stuff coming up. Like, I mean, recently we had a whole group, and like quite a lot of it was about love and happiness, which I thought was incredible. It happened pretty organically, but yeah, like hearing like the youngest at the moment, that there was a 18-year-old that's come, but at the moment the youngest is around 25, and just, you know, hearing guys around that age talking about love and stuff, and the difference between how they come across and what they're talking about. There's some guys on there who, how they come across, I thought, you know, I kind of projected the people I'd known, you know, when I was younger onto them, and, you know, they can come across as, you know, the ultra confident kind of, I suppose you call it like jock style or lad, or that kind of thing. But then they're talking about, there's one guy, you know, talking about, you know, he wants more intimacy, and
That's a big deal for a blokey bloke to be saying stuff like that.
Yeah.
They must feel really quite safe, because in a lot of environments, for a bloke to say that, he's just asking to have the piss taken and to get totally slaughtered.
Yeah, and a couple of them have talked about, like, you know, one night stands and how they don't want to have a one night stand ever again. And yeah, so that's something rarely heard as a young guy. It's all about, you know, sex at all costs, and the more of it, the better. But yeah, to hear them saying how it's just a bummer, like if there's no real connection there.
Wow. It sounds, rather than playing truth or dare together, you're daring to tell the truth and to connect at that level and to live better, more honest lives, rather than thinking, I have to be an idiot, otherwise other people will think I'm a freak. That's something. Good on you, Bertie.
Yeah, just quickly as well, there's also addiction seems to come up a fair bit, like addiction to drugs, or mainly drugs, but a bit of alcohol as well. So, or just, you know, numbing behaviors, you know, like overeating and social media and stuff like that.
That's what I was going to ask about. I wonder whether most people that go to your groups were born with computers and computer games and social media and porn and God knows what else, where I wasn't. I don't think you were, Des. Don't know about you, Kate, but it must be a very, very different scene to be born with these things. And I said to my wife a couple of weeks ago, the things that a lot of young people consume with a straight face, whether it's horror or grief or God knows what, and it's the same computer face with all these feelings going on. I wonder how your generation are wired differently because of all of this and the access to so much. Because I remember saying to you, I had to cross down to hang out with someone who wasn't my favorite person to hang out with because he had a record I want to listen to. That's like prehistoric. Now you've got everything with a couple of clicks. Totally different world that you're bringing in, that from what I had, with very different issues, I'm sure. Done?
just another quick thing. I was thinking today also, like that having everything at the end of my finger, or own it at the end of my fingertips, like I think it has made me very entitled, like in the past. Like I'm sure I'm still entitled in lots of ways, but you know, I was thinking about it, like the people that kind of complain about stuff, like apps that they get for free that they use all the time, and they're getting it for free, and then they complain about it, and they say, this is pile, you know, they update it, and the update's crap, and this is a pile of crap, you know, who do you think you are? And it's like, this person made this thing for free, and it's giving it to you for free, and you're using it without paying for it, and you didn't make it. And it's like, just thinking about it, it's just kind of a bit nuts, but I get it, like I've been there, and it's just a lack of awareness. It's like, I suppose, you know, having been working with MenSpeak for a while, there's a lot of things about MenSpeak which probably the guys coming, they have no idea, like, you know, the time and energy put into it. And you know, the fact that this runs 7 days a week, it's I remember saying to you 3 or 4 years ago, like, this should be every day.
And then you created COVID. Thanks, Bertie.
We used to have the open group, so the open group, which was, you know, is quite a lot of money as well, and it's like well, not a lot, but compared to a check-in, it's a whole different ball game, and that was, you know, once a month or twice a month.
Yeah.
And it's like, so if there's something wrong with the check-in, that just being, I'm just always aware, like, at least it's there.
Yeah. Entitlement. It reminds me of a word that Daz taught me. I think it was last year or the year before. Affluenza. I'll never forget that word. Good on you, Bertie. And you write blogs, and you've held groups in schools and stuff like that. Where do people go to find out?
Yeah, just YoungMenSpeak.com.
Thank you. Are we going WomenSpeak or MatureMenSpeak? Who fancies?
Well, I'd like to hear more about what the men talk about right now.
Okay, over to you, Des.
Yes, well, MatureMenSpeak, although the guys who are meeting in it have known each other for a long time, it was born really last week, and we just decided, and we're still in the process of agreeing our description and what information to put on the Meetup site, you know, bearing in mind that, you know, older guys may, you know, not want too much information. But it's really a space for older men. And we've been quite liberal with the age group. So from sort of 50-ish onwards. So the description mature gives you quite a wide age range, and of course there are many people in their 50s and 60s who wouldn't want to go to basically an older men's group. It doesn't really, you know, it's not quite so sexed up, although we can surprise, you know,
with permission.
With permission. Get out of jail free. You know, it may start, you know, with a more of a sort of pedestrian check-in of how we're feeling physically, you know, particularly if your assets are shutting down. And obviously, you know, there is the potential for more health issues, particularly in the context of COVID and lockdowns, and also mental issues. You know, not that older people necessarily have more issues in the psychiatric department, but loneliness is a big one, because it's likely to capture the loss of loved ones, you know, the loss of life partners, the loss of family, friends, but also things like maybe the loss of a good career or a bad career. So it's opening up to an extraordinary world of honest appraisal, if we're able to go that way. And I think in the context of MenSpeak we are. I think we do tend to create the space that allows people to bring these things up in a very safe environment. So an honest appraisal of what has happened, warts and all, and then maybe look towards the end. And whether that's bleak or not, I suppose it depends on perhaps what you feel about a hereafter, if you think there might be one, or maybe the relief that you don't think there is one. And you know, if you feel that you are potentially recyclable and you've got karmic baggage, then think that through. So, you know, we talk about an awful lot of stuff, and I'm very excited that we've now got it up and running, and Kenny, John, and I have had sort of an interesting little negotiation about the wording, and you know, sometimes the temptation to bring cheery messages to it has sometimes, for me, brought up the world of sort of pots of tea, iced buns, and bedroom slippers, whereas I'd rather, you know, be a little bit more dark in a way. Not that I'm a pessimist, but you know, we use the phrase in MenSpeak generally, you know, we keep it real. And to be honest, a lot of older people, you know, pretty hacked off with what they've ended up with. And at least this gives us a space to talk about it. And I think it will gather momentum. I think maybe we might need to be a little bit more creative about how we advertise it, because, you know, if like me, you've grown up with 78s and 45s, and, you know, you were gobsmacked about a fax machine when it was invented, that, you know, and you got high on the cycler styling machine. Do you remember that? I don't know who remembers that. Well, it was a way of printing documents, but it had all this wonderful alcohol. So you could get a bit high on that. So it's before glue sniffing became fashionable.
It's getting more and more like Last of the Summer Wine now, Des. Glue sniffing, alcohol from the what is it? Photostat machine.
Yeah, the cycler styling, I think it was called. And of course, although pornography wasn't really provided on the net so easily, it was institutionally available on calendars and page 3 of the Mirror, I think it was.
Sun, apparently.
The Sun, yeah. Well, I think the Sun was relatively late invention.
Really?
Yes. I don't think the Sun was around when I was young. I think it was the Mirror and the Daily Mail, I presume.
And let's not mention Health and Efficiency.
Or Murdoch. Well, disappearing pension schemes. So so we need to find perhaps an easier way of advertising it, or you know, just be mindful that not everybody now looks on the internet. But I think it's going to gather momentum, particularly with the longer fallout of COVID and your survival, and one's survival because of, you know, the vaccines, if they work for us.
About 8 years ago, I held, we call them MB50, Men Beyond 50 groups, and they were full. I think they might have been fortnightly. They were full. I was just too busy to continue. And I feel that after this one, as we're clear, there are enough men who want to come. I don't think that will be the issue. I just love that we have a space. And one of the first things we do is a health check, because very often there's no space to talk about what is going on, or even to recall what's going on and to admit it, leave alone to hear from other people and to have a relationship with what's going on. Sometimes it's just so normal for people, male or female, to deny, avoid, and just run away from the whole thing. So the health check is good. And so are the references, because we all know who Nora Batty is and what, you know, the way that her tights used to get certain people going. But the references, the fun, and a different attitude and relationship to life, of acceptance and peace, and what needs to be maybe brought into clarity of vision, brought into perspective. But it's wonderful, I would say, not just for the older men, but I remember I was 48 when I started holding the mature men's groups, the Men Beyond 50 groups, and I learned a lot of what I don't want to happen and what to do. So what I don't want to happen doesn't happen, and what I do want to happen, and therefore what to do now. And that was invaluable. And I don't know what you think, Bertie, but I've been around, I remember a big couple of weeks or a week in Findhorn, and it was a Men and the Quest or something. And the young men, I was younger then, the young men were saying, what is it with the older men? Why do they ignore us? Why do they not want to be with us? Why have they abandoned us? Meanwhile, the older men were just plain scared of the younger men who wanted a connection. And it's like, well, they're not going to want to be around us boring old farts. It's like all this fear, exactly as you're talking about with your friend, Bertie. It's like, this is beyond the fear. This is just about like meeting here. And the gifts I think that this will bring is just wonderful. And I'm so happy. So it's every Thursday, 5 to 6:30?
Exactly, yes.
Mensgroups.co.uk.
Yes.
So yeah, bring out your codger, your inner codger. Anything more you'd like to say, Des?
No, just come along.
Thank you. So is that in any shape or form an insight, Kate?
Yeah, I love listening to men talk about the things that are important to them, and yeah, it's lovely to. I find it so touching when I hear any of you talk about the kind of things that go on in the men's group. It's so heartening to know that men have a space where they can be vulnerable and kind of relax more into themselves. That's my kind of, I suppose that's my hope for men and for women, that men can do that.
And what's your intention with the women's groups, or what do you enjoy about the women's groups, or has working with women brought any surprises up for you?
Oh, lots of questions there. Okay. Yeah, well, we're early days, so we ran a few towards the end of last year. It's myself and a fantastic woman that Kenny's brought in called Christelle, who's awesome. I really love working with her. I think we're a good team. And so we're just kind of getting off the ground, and we run on a Monday evening every fortnight. The next one's on the 25th. At 7, and my hope is fairly sort of open, really. Don't have any sort of particular agenda or vision as to exactly that's going to look like. I'm just waiting to see how it unfolds, that Christelle and I can, together with the women who show up, will hopefully be able to create, a safe space where everything is welcome, as long as it's brought in a way that's respectful to the group process and to the individuals in the group. And of the two that I've been involved with so far, the first group, we talked a lot about the challenges of being authentic, and the courage that it takes to be authentic, to speak truth, even when it's really uncomfortable, and the sort of sense of freedom that can come from when we have can find that the sense of importance, that something is important enough to be able to find, to tune into the courage to speak the truth. And in the other session that I was involved in, we had a really interesting discussion about home. What does home mean to us? And I think that was a kind of constellation of the fact I just moved home, someone else has just moved to this country and was experiencing lots of feelings about what home meant for her. And so that was a really interesting discussion. And my sense is that there'll be a lot of stuff perhaps around self-care, the challenges of kind of prioritizing one's own needs amongst the demands of, parenthood for those that are parents, and work life, especially at the moment with people having to work and do homeschooling. That's something that I'm seeing a lot in my practice as a therapist. Is coming up. It's very challenging for people. And even if people can't sort of, it feels difficult to prioritize their own needs, is to at least sort of be able to include themselves in the pot of people and situations that require their attention. I imagine there's going to be stuff coming up around, relationships. I hope we get to talk about sex, because I love talking about sex. So I hope we get an opportunity to do that. And I expect from the women that have attended so far, have tended to be, I'd say, younger to middle age. There's going to be stuff coming up around menopause or stuff. I could certainly have plenty to contribute on that, into that conversation. And I'm sure that relationships are going to be really central, relationships of all kinds, including our relationship with ourselves, and how we can support each other to grow. And
the funny
one thing that I'm really passionate about, which I hope may emerge into the space, having said that I don't have any particular vision, these are my personal hopes, I suppose, is that we can talk about all the stuff that we're really good at, all the ways in which we can bring our gifts and our talents to the world, and how generally as women we perhaps tend to hold back from letting other people see those, or we don't tend to perhaps to be a bit shy about that. So I love the idea of giving each other permission to shine in whatever way that is going to be for each of us. So I do hope that some of that comes into the space where we don't get kind of bogged down in what all the difficult stuff. But there's a space for that, but there's also space for celebrating the contribution that we can make, and allowing ourselves to feel good about that.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, chaps, that at MenSpeak we're very good at celebrating, and we're very good at laughing, and it's so important. And one of my cheap lines is giving energy to what you want to grow, and I want to grow the good stuff. Sometimes I need to be with the not so good stuff so it can be met and it can pass. Then there's space to focus on the good. And I love that. And in our room of 4, I'm guessing our hormones are very, very different. Young men's hormones, mature men's hormones, female hormones, middle-aged man hormones. First time I've ever called myself a middle-aged man, that felt weird. And the way they change. And I think one of the most hilarious things about men's relationships to women's hormones is, rather than remembering that women have hormones, and most people forget that men have hormones, it's like we're just this Tonka toy or something. But so many men kind of think, well, what did I do wrong? Or how do I fix this? Rather than, she is possibly going through something that's got nothing to do with me. It's not all about me. And I really hope that there is more language, that we all talk about our instincts, our urges, our hormones, our hearts, our fears, because I'm not sure that even women talk about it that much. And I need for women to educate men more, because then we know how to be, rather than thinking it's all about me. And it's so easy, especially for, you know, men in fear and panic, to go straight into the head, and it's like, oh my God, I have to fix this. There's nothing to fix. It's what needs to be with and what needs to pass. So 2 quick shameless plugs. Cardboard cutout of ebook. So I don't remember where on Amazon, but it's called Online Men's Group Success. And on mensgroups.co.uk, you can see a recorded men's group that I think the 3 of us are in, and some others. And there's a link to get hold of the ebook. Otherwise, on the first Saturday of the month, there's a day training, and we're going to roll out an accredited training later in the year. So it's not all about come to us. It's about use the tools. If you want to come to us, come to us. Otherwise, use the tools so you can live a better life. Communities can grow and flourish, and people know what's going on in real time, rather than, you know, fear and fantasy. What do I need to say now, folks? Where are we? Celebration. Shall we do a round of what we wish to celebrate and end on that?
I'm in.
Who fancies starting?
Well, shall I start? Because
Yeah.
my partner and I, you know, over a cup of tea just before I came on this, you know, he said, it's only 7 weeks away. I said, what? He said, you officially become an old age pensioner. So
Wow.
I'm quite happy about that. I mean, I'm celebrating that I got to this stage, you know, you know, because I've had a few health issues. So yeah, why not celebrate it? You know, I just stand at the door waiting. I don't know, it doesn't arrive by check, does it? But
people don't know what checks are anymore.
no, I guess I'm thinking of it, it's like a fruit machine, you know, the money sort of comes in through. So I'll celebrate becoming an old age pensioner on the 5th of March. There we go.
Thank you. Who do you want to pass it to, or who's ready to go? Whichever.
Oh, Bertie, come on.
I suppose, like you said, Kenny, I'd celebrate the people knowing what's going on, less fear and fantasy, which I feel like has been, yeah, my theme of this whole pandemic. I've just been a lot more honest with people, like, and it's been extremely uncomfortable, and it's brought me alive. And really, like, just turbocharged my relationships. So yeah, I'd like to celebrate naming the fears and the fantasies.
Thank you, Bertie. Kate?
Yeah. I've gone through a sort of Rolodex of possibilities, and where I've landed is where I started, which is I'd like to celebrate with you men the launch of the women's groups. It feels very exciting to be a part of it. I sense the sort of infinite possibilities of how it could all develop. I'd love to see, you know, similar things that you guys are doing with more sort of specialist groups of women gathering to talk about particular things that really matter to them, and I'd like to celebrate women.
Thank you. And for me, two things cross my mind. One is us here and now and what we're doing. And this all feels like, on one hand, in service. On another hand, it feels like in love, because what I've experienced more and more in the groups is love, real connection. And the number of men who've said, I feel more connected here than I have with my friends that I've known since uni, or the people I've been drinking with forever. It's like the connection, the honesty, the love, the openness, it's just magnificent. And I love that now there are places that I can send people, older, younger, female, etc. And even that charities and organizations and companies are saying, look, what you're doing is valuable. Who do you have that can help us out? And now I can draw on you lot. And, you know, more love to share. The other one is, you know, I do love, there's a picture of me, and behind the picture, there are all these logos of the different media I've been in, you know, radio, TV, GQ, The Times, whatever. And I'm adding the Telegraph there because I'm in the Telegraph soon. I hope they're kind. But yeah, I'm a bit of a tart.
We want news.
So we have just enough time for 30 seconds. Thank you.
Well,